C. Farrell. That conversation does absolutely nothing to relieve my ever-growing anxiety. It hangs out behind me like a stubborn sibling intent on driving one to the very last inch of their patience. I can barely get control of my thoughts, especially at night. When I do actually fall asleep, my dreams are full of possibilities, both positive and negative. I see myself burning bones in some, while in others I throw myself into a grave to protect a ghost. Every night for the next few weeks, I wake with a start right before I hit the flames, holding back screams, neck aching. Thankfully, Aya is an extremely deep sleeper and I never wake her up. These nightmares stick with me so strongly, I have to stay up reading long after they've ended. At least our room is filled with books. This is what those closets are actually for, since we don't need storage for clothes. Yasmin's elation over this discovery was contagious. I doubt I'll be reading the complete works of Shakespeare or the unabridged version of Les Mis along with her, but there are some awesome science fiction pieces I'm totally down for. Though I have a few more life flashes, each one is so minor they tell me almost nothing. Moments from school, talent shows, apparently I had mad drumming skills, cooking fried chicken with brown gravy, we were semi-southern after all, and day trips to look at bluebonnets. All great pieces of my personality and mundane family activities, but nothing that unravels the greater mystery of my life, or how I died. To keep the gray of depression at bay, I asked Mr. Q about finding a drum of some kind. He digs up I don't know how this is pronounced, a small goblet-shaped drum played with bare hands that I promise not to use at ridiculous hours of the night. Apart from the rhythm calming my nerves, it also helps to hit something in a non-destructive way. At the very least, Rafe and I master the first unit of corporal contact and start combat training, an absolute necessity before attempting to complete unfinished business. Thank the powers that be for small favors. Any amount of progress is a welcome change. Plus, now I'll have an excuse to hit something destructively. I'm yawning as Rafe and I walk together toward the combat building, surrounded by falling snow we can't fully feel. It coasts through our skin unless we concentrate and sends chills deep into our bodies that hint at yet another memory I can't quite grab onto. It kind of feels like brain freeze, Rafe says with a grin. Or if whole body freeze, I cock my head to the side and hold out a hand to catch a flurry in my palm. Rafe laughs. It's the all-consuming type where he stops and leans back, one hand on his chest. I'll allow it. He nudges me with a shoulder. Any progress with Haya on finding out what happened to her ex-roommate? I kick the snow with a heel. Not really. She did tell me that Erin was a psych from New York and that she loved pancakes, but that obviously doesn't tell me much about what happened to her. I'm treading lightly at the moment. Figure if I push too hard, she'll clam up. What about you? Rafe pulls the door to combat open for me. No new info from Quinn, but he's not really the talkative type. It's hard enough getting him to talk about himself, though Yasmin does seem to get a lot more out of him. Maybe we can make that our mission. I've been nudging Kaz a little, though. He drops his voice as we find some free space at the back of the mats. Apparently, whatever happened to Erin is why Landon's such a pleasant person to hang out with. It kind of sounded like they were dating. Weird thought considering we're dead, though I guess they'd call it the afterlife, right? I elbow Rafe's ribs as if my joke is actually funny and not really stupid. The idea of dead people dating shouldn't actually sound that dumb considering I'm a witch medium, but it is still a little weird. Then again, if we can sleep and eat, then I guess we can do other things too. My face burns and I repress a goofy grin at this inappropriate thought. Glad we've been whispering when Landon and Dimple Piercing, I mean Melissa, both walk in at the same doesn't say a word as he strides to the front, but everyone moves at once. Rafe and I follow, joining the silent line as quick as possible. The instructor paces from one end to the other, narrowing his eyes at anyone who doesn't have their hands behind their backs or who happens to be slouching. My muscles stand at perfect attention without any coaxing, although almost like they've been trained to do so. This lines up with what Theo told me about how witch mediums have shifted around based on the Xers. Maybe I took some kind of combat before I died. If I had lost my powers, that could also make sense. The combat instructor stops in the middle of our line. For those of you who are new, my name is Coach Richards. In this class, there will be no sensei. You can call me either Coach Richards or Coach. If I blow the whistle, you will stop what you're doing immediately and put your complete attention on me. This is for your safety and my sanity. I swallow a laugh, figuring he would not appreciate it. Now, new ghosts don't often understand why we train this way. Coach Richards continues. We're already dead. Why would we need to fight? Anybody? New students only. Yasmin lifts a finger. To defend ourselves from the Xers. Coach Richards nods. Very good. Xers are highly trained and often armed with spells that enable them to attack ghosts. He paces our line. If you encounter them when you go to complete your unfinished business, you may face any number of magical weapons or individuals that can harm you. This can slow you down and make you vulnerable to getting trapped. My chest tightens, as if figuring all this out isn't hard enough, as if the Xers aren't terrifying enough. Now we have to deal with the possibility of pain and capture. Awesome. You should learn more about this in your other classes. My job is to prepare you to fight if necessary. Now, even though you no longer have bodies, we still work out in this class. He claps, jog around the room. Our line breaks into a halting run until it stretches out, the faster and longer-legged taking the lead. Running without an actual body isn't much different than walking, though I am way more tempted to hover instead. At the very least, I don't have sweat glands anymore, so that's a plus. I match Rafe's pace and bump him with my shoulder. He flails his arms in an extremely overdramatic fashion. Calm down, Martin. We haven't started the attacking part yet. It's not kosher to start early. Isn't the idea to always be prepared? Are you saying you're not constantly vigilant? Less talking, more running, Coach Richards says from the center of the room. Rafe and I both snicker but cut off all communication. Better not to tick off the coach in the first 5 minutes of class. After a series of torturous warm-up exercises, Coach Richards calls us to the front and gestures for Landon to assist him. Brody or not, he fills out those athletic bands very nicely. I roll my eyes internally. Get it together, Martin. You don't even technically have hormones anymore. But that doesn't stop me from feeling something, and it's super intense. Apparently, my spirit remembers what hormones felt like and reacts accordingly. Right now, they're shouting at me so loud I can barely concentrate. Coach Richards drops to the floor, slapping the mat on either side of his legs to break his fall, and Landon straddles his hips. Without prompting, he pulls an arm back for a punch, but Coach bugs his hips to knock him off balance. They flip so Landon's on his back. Coach Richards throws a mock punch, then pops onto his feet and backs up, facing us. Ground defense. He sinks onto the floor again and gestures to Landon, who assumes his position on top of him. You never want to get here. The goal is to stay on your feet as much as possible. But if this does happen, your first goal is like any other defense. Throw them off balance. Like before, he lifts his hips so Landon falls forward and has to catch himself on his hands. In this position, he's forced to stop the attack in order to steady himself. My muscles can remember things, but something sparks through me, almost like a contraction I would have felt when I was alive. Something in me remembers this movement. I've learned it at some place in some time. Coach shows us how to trap our opponent's leg with a foot, then roll sideways to gain the top. Once you're off your back, the name of the game your opponent off balance first. Landon and I will be walking around to assess your form. I grimace a little at the thought of Landon judging me on anything, but then turn to Rafe. That grin lifts me out of my existential crisis. He agrees to be on the floor first. Straddling his hips sends a little thrill through my center. I focus my mind on some random internet advertisement jingle I just happen to remember, to keep it from sliding right into the gutter. I knew you wanted me, Rafe says with a wink. Don't get cocky, Fox boy. But I can't keep the smile off my face either, which makes pretending to punch him feel a bit stupid. Still, I respect the exercise, lifting a fist to give Rafe the setup he needs. He bucks his hips, sending me forward, but not quite far enough. I catch myself on my forearms and we're face to face, inches away from each other. He stares up at me with his lips parted. His cold breath fans across my cheeks and sends goosebumps through my body. If I leaned forward just a little bit, I could kiss him, feel that odd combination of cold and heat all at once. But this close, the scars around his eyes are more jarring than usual. My fingers itch to trace them. The question about where they came from perches on the tip of my tongue. You two done with your moment? I flinch at Landon's voice and look up to meet his glower with my best grin. Actually, no, could you give us a minute? Rafe laughs, his stomach bumping against mine, an incredibly strange feeling, strange and pleasant. With a snort, I shift to the side, trying not to giggle when Landon's glare darkens and he crosses his arms. This isn't a joke, he says. If you ever want to pass on, you might just have to face the Xers, or some renegade ghost bent on causing trouble. You have to be ready for anything. I shouldn't be obnoxious, especially considering the fact that his girlfriend might have gotten twisted, but his gloom and doom attitude is about to drive me batty. So I do the worst possible thing and give him a little mock salute. Sir, yes, sir, face hardening. Landon stalks off to harass some other poor duo, and I look back at Rafe. Such a sunny personality. Well, if you swear, I climb back on, and this time he does in fact do better. Oh, I'm so sorry, I missed a part of Rafe snickers, ready to try again. I solemnly swear to do better. Well, if you swear, I climb back on, and this time he does in fact do better. For the rest of the class, I keep singing that jingle in my head. I think it was for some brand of gum, and managed to earn praise from Coach Richards for my technique. He even confirms my suspicion that I must have had some kind of combat training when I was alive. As Rafe and I walk out the door and the Fox shifter gives me a little bow. All hail the Queen of Mats, he chuckles. You'll have to tutor me because, as you can see, I'm trash at combat. Sucked at it at Blakemore, and death hasn't changed much. I tap my chin. I don't know, that sounds like an awful lot of work. What's in it for me? Rafe gives me a ridiculous pouty look, and